Why is that? My name is Jared Wilson, and from a man's perspective, I'm happy to share my journey with the hopes of changing these statistics for the better, while uncovering the challenges and opportunities with all relationships. It doesn't matter if you're single, in a relationship, it's complicated, you're engaged, married, or divorced. Let's talk about it. Welcome to The Walk. We're recording, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Welcome back to The Walk, ladies and gentlemen. Look, you can't be a gentleman if you don't know how to make a good drink. One day I'll teach you guys how to make the Jerry Wilson whiskey sour. Just add that in there. So this is definitely a more different environment than other videos because we are at a point where you guys have done so much great work. Men, you are now at a place where it comes down to ring shopping. And today we're actually going to touch on the topic of how do you ask her dad for his blessing over your new marriage? So we're going to talk about, how to ask, what to say, how to stay calm, cool, and collective. And, just as the fun fact, 70% of proposers ask for parental permission before popping the question. Now, if you're like me, that was the standard. I always knew that is the way it's going to be done because you want to be respectful to the parents. They have raised their daughter this entire time, have taken care of her, and now you are asking their permission because you want to give them and let them know that you are going to do just as well as making sure she is taken care of. As well, you want it to be an opportunity where you're bringing families together and so forth. So, I said, what better way of doing this episode than just telling you my story of how to do things the right way. And so, to start off, my dad, if you know my dad, he can be a little slow at times, a lot of times perhaps. And so, I knew he wouldn't catch on. So I already had an idea of when I was going to pop the question. So it was a matter of, all right, now I need to have the opportunity to ask her dad, because the reality is we were long distance. He was her family lives in Ohio. So I had to have the opportunity. I was like, I can't just text him and be like, hey, Mr. Eastlick, hey, you cool with me asking your daughter for her hand in marriage? A text wasn't going to work. I can't FaceTime it. So we had to have the opportunity to go down there, which came up because her sister was graduating from the Ohio State. And so we were going to go down there. We'll spend time with the family for the weekend. I had the perfect setup for it. And so I said, you know what? How do you go about doing this? So I said, you know what? Let me ask my dad. So I casually brought it up one day. I said, Dad, how did you ask mom's parents for her hand in marriage? And he's like, I didn't. And I'm like, okay, well, you have one job, is to be there to give advice and wisdom. And the time I need you, you are not there for me. So that was so I said, all right, let me go on TV, look at some movies or something to see how it's done. And none of those scenes are in there. I don't know why. Somebody make a movie with that scene in there so we can see how it should be done. So I was kind of like, all right, you know what, Jared, you've done public speaking. You know how to do this. Just go to him and say what's good. So I had it in my head. I practiced that. I had it not written out, but it was in my head pretty good. And I role played it a couple times with the mirror. And the man in the mirror thought it was good. So I was like, oh, it's going to be great. And so I looked in the mirror and I was like, I would see him. The ladies would go inside. I'm like, shake his hand. Hey, Mr. Eastlick, it's great to see you. Can we talk for a second? And I was going to look to him and I was going to say, hey, Mr. Eastlick, I just want to talk to you real quick because, I've been dating your daughter for 2 years now. And over the last 2 years, we have just been able to grow our relationship, and we've gone for pre-engagement counseling because it's important to me that our relationship has a firm foundation to build off of. You and Miss Eastlick have done an amazing job developing and growing Kiara to the woman she is today and that I've fallen in love with. And I wanted to be respectful and make sure that I ask you for your permission and your blessing to ask her for her hand in marriage. And he would look at me and you could just see he would be smoldering with respect and in awe and be like, wow, Jared, you are a really young, fine man. And, I would be honored to have you be a part of our family. And of course, you have my blessing to ask Kiera for her hand in marriage. And he'd be like, son, and I'd be like, thanks, dad. And we'd give each other like a hug, and like everything, the fireworks would go off, and it would be like amazing. And that's just what you kind of expect. So I'm like, all right, we have a plan, let's go. So we were going out there. I knew I had a window. So the plan was that we would get there. I would take all the bags out because I'm a chauffeurist guy. That's what we're supposed to do. I would leave one bag in the car. So that way when he comes, I would have a reason to go outside while everyone else is still inside. Because I'm going to grab the bag and then I'm going to talk to him and then things are going to be good. And so I'm thinking, all right, this will happen the next day. So the next day, I'm like, all right, this is going to happen. And so Kiera's like, well, my dad works nights and so forth. He has to work the rest of the weekend. So they're actually coming over here in like an hour. And so then, and then he's probably going to be gone. So that'll be the only time you see him. I mean, honestly, that just changed all the plans right there. So I'm like, oh man, my plans are truly messed up. And so literally we just been driving 5-6 hours. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm hot. I want to change clothes, get something more comfortable. And now he's about to be here and I got to do this now. So I'm like, all right, Jared, you practice. You've trained for this. You're ready. And so, I'm like, all right, he gets there. They go inside. They're all talking. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to wait till he says I'm about to go. So that'll be my cue to go outside, go get the bag. And then I'm going to run into him. So we're talking. He's like, all right, I'm about to get ready to go. I'm like, boom, plans in action. So I run outside. I already made a mistake. I had already taken out all the bags. I didn't leave the one bag like I was supposed to. So I'm like, what am I going to look for? So Kiera's like, where are you going? I'm like, oh, I left something in the car. She's like, what'd you leave? I'm like, I left my pen in the car. Now, granted, anybody, see, I'm not playing. Anybody who knows me knows I always have a pen on me because I'm signing checks. I'm a boss. That's what I do. So I'm like, I'm going to get my pen. She's like, whatever. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go grab the pen. And then he's going to come out because he said he's about to leave his work. So I'm out there and literally, I lied to you not, it was like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. I'm sitting there looking for the pen, trying to look like, because they could see me out the window. So I'm looking. And so I'm like, yo, where is this dude? He's not coming. And so I find the pen. I go back inside. He's sitting down talking because they got on a different topic. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not going according to plan at all. So then he's like, all right, I'm about to get ready to leave. I'm like, I got to go to the car again. So I get up and run back out. And Carrie, what? I left something else. I left it. Don't ask me questions. I left something else. So I go back out and I'm like, I don't even know what I was looking for. I'm just in the car doing this just so it looks like I dropped the water. I don't know. So he finally comes out this time. Thankfully, nobody else was with him. So I'm like, thank gosh. So he's like, oh, hey, I'm about to leave. I'm like, oh yeah, great. Let me talk to you, Mr. Eastlick, real quick. And so, I'm ready. It's in my head. And now, honestly, I don't care who you are. If you say that you were calm, cool, and collective, you're lying. I don't believe you. It doesn't matter how tall you are, how big you are, whatever the case is. When you're talking to the father-in-law, you become like a little kid. Like you feel like you're looking up at them. And literally, I've done public speaking. I've done workshops, lectures. All of it went out the window. So I'm stuttering. I'm sweating. I'm hot. Like it was just bad. And he's just looking at me. So I'm like, hey, Mr. Eastlick, I just want to talk to you real quick. So I've been dating your daughter. He's like, I know. I'm like, well, it's important that I talk to you because, well, this is harder than I thought. And I said this out loud. This was going from my head. I said it out loud. I'm like, I was raised right. And he's just like, okay, it really was that bad. Like, I'm not even emphasizing it was really that bad. I'm like, I was raised right. And it was important. My parents taught me the right way to do things. And so, Kiera and I have been going through pre-engagement counseling. And, it's important that I talk to you because we went through that. And, I want to get your blessing or let you know, show that I'm being respectful. And he's just like, And I'm like, okay, look, I want to make sure it's okay with you. I want to ask Kiera for her hand in marriage, but I want to make sure you're okay with it first and have your blessing over it and so forth. I want to make sure that's cool. And he just looks at me and he's just like, Now, if you know Kier's dad, or if you've ever met him, like, he's funny. He's a funny dude, and the reality is, when he speaks, people laugh. But when you don't really know him, you don't know if he's saying stuff because he's making jokes, or he's being serious or being sarcastic. I don't know. So it's like everyone's laughing, but I'm not close enough to know whether I should laugh or be serious. So I'm just in that awkward position. So he's like, okay, well, is she going to say yes? And I'm like, yeah. Now, granted, I never thought about that. So, that just wasn't in my head. Like, this is not what we're supposed to be calling each other father and son at this point. And now you're asking me, is she even going to say yes? I was like, yeah, she's going to, I'm pretty sure she'll say, well, have you talked to her? No, I haven't, but I'm pretty sure she's going to say yes. And he's like, okay, well, I mean, you seem like an okay dude. So, I mean, if she's happy, I'm fine with it. And I'm like, okay, so it's like one end, the weight was lifted off my shoulder because he said, I'm fine with it. But at the same time, back in my head, I'm like, I'm an okay dude? Like, have I not made a good impression? Like, am I doing something wrong? So I'm just like, okay, cool. Well, I appreciate that. So he shakes my hand. I didn't get the son comment, like that didn't happen. So he starts walking back to his car, and then he turns around. He's like, hey, what if I said no? And I'm like, honestly, literally, like, so all that weight I just talked about, like, jump back on immediately. And so I'm like, I never thought about that. I hope you wouldn't say no, but I'm gonna do my best to do right by her. And he's just like, okay. So he's like, all right, I'm going to work. Yeah, I'm just in the car. And so then all of a sudden I'm like just standing there. So I'm like that little kid just standing in the driveway, like, what to do? And so I'm not. Now I got to be calm, cool, collective. So I got to go back inside immediately. Kira, because she's like a hawk. She's like, what did you find in the car? I'm like, I dropped my pen again. I don't know. It's in the bed. He's like, oh, well, what were you doing? I was talking to your dad. Oh, what were y'all talking about? Nothing. This guy. We're talking about sports and music. Like, I'm just like, my gosh. So, I mean, honestly, y'all, men, it is not easy. I mean, the right thing to say is don't do what I do. It's probably the best piece of advice I can give. Maybe watch the part of what I thought I was going to say. But the reality is, man, if you're doing right by her, if you're treating her right, you're being respectful, you go on through the 10 classes or the 10 videos before, and you're having those conversations, man, at the end of the day, you're going to be in good hands. And, I'm sweating now just retelling this story. So I'm going to go back to this. And that's it for this episode of The Walk. Peace.